Good morning. Welcome to my ChinWag. It's Sunday, the 24th of July, 2022. And I've got a bit of a sore throat, actually. Well, it's not so much sore, a little bit of a chesty cough, which has destroyed my my wonderful vocal pad. And I now, well, in fact, I have a more wonderful vocal voice. I can't think of the right word. So you'll have to put up with a croaking Vobes this morning. Apologies for that. I had a very nice evening yesterday with some friends, and we went out down to the seafront and had some fish and chips, which was rather lovely. Although I did see that the world and his brother was out, and I had a visceral reaction to everybody around me, the loud noise that was supposedly music that I didn't really recognise, the unmoral, the untidy and the lacking in morals, it seemed, of people, or the lack of smart dress sense going out. And I realised that I was a bit of an old dinosaur out there. There was me dressed up a little bit smartish, and everyone else was so dressed down. I just couldn't really cope with it. I don't know why. But anyway, it made me think about other things, because I kept thinking to myself, well, it would be lovely to escape from this area and go to the country and have a little house and a garden and do a bit of farming and things like that. And I want to talk to you about ambition in today's episode. Are you somebody who is ambitious? Is there any point in being ambitious? That's really what I want to drive at. When I was at school, I remember he was a science teacher, but for a day, miraculously, he became a careers teacher. And he had everybody in on this was in my comprehensive secondary school. I was 15, and I think it was the week before we were all due to leave. So around about this time, some however many years ago it was, far too long to remember, in the 70... When did I actually leave school? I can't remember if it was 78 or 79. No, I took my driving test in 79, so I was 17 there. So it must have been 76, something like that. Anyway, whatever. Or 77. It really doesn't matter. It's, like those things, and they get into your head and you go, it doesn't really matter at all, but I would like to find out in my head, can I clear it all up? But I can't, and I'm wasting your time. But I remember going into the office, and the science teacher, who was now the careers teacher, said, Richard, what do you want to do when you leave school? And I, quick as a flash, I said, well, I'd like to be an actor or a film director, please. And he looked at me as if I had said something dreadful. He had one of those little boxes with cards, card index. Do you remember those things in the old days before digital and electronic devices and things? And he said, right, well, I don't think we've got any jobs like that. However, and he pulled out a card and he said, how would you like to be a printer? And I was just keen to earn some money because I wanted to buy a cine camera and start making some cine films. And so I said, yeah, all right then. And my ambition was not encouraged at all. In fact, at the school I went to in Horsham, the comprehensive school, there was no encouragement to improve you or bring you up. I was very average. We just did CSEs back in those days, Certificate of Secondary Education, not the GCSEs. I don't know whether the additional of the G at the front, General Certificate of Education, made it any better or worse. I mean, mine was a definite certificate of secondary education as opposed to a general certificate of secondary education. I don't know. I remember when the results of the exams came through on a piece of very thin bank paper. Bank is about 60 GSM, I think. It's next to that almost as flimsy as that awful toilet paper that they would put into boys' schools. I don't know about girls' schools. The sort of semi-tracing paper that would be folded up that you had to wipe your bottom with. And just be careful you don't actually slice it in half, or you've already got a crack there, but because the paper was so stiff. Anyway, this piece of feeble bank had a dot matrix printout. I was most disappointed. There was I thinking at least my certificate of secondary education might be on a piece of card, something that I could take home and show my parents that diligently, since I had gone to school at the age of 5, I'd been working for this piece of paper with the qualifications, which was, we were all told, and I imagine still children are being lied to in this way, that this is your key to a great career and a future ahead of you. And I came back with this flimsy bit of paper, almost like Neville Chamberlain's, "I've come back with a piece of paper," which in the end proved not worth the thing it was printed on. I should have wiped my bum on it, really. But anyway, so my ambition was curtailed pretty early on, although it wasn't squashed. But it was squashed by the authorities, and I was determined, well, I'm going to do my own thing. And most of my life I have done that. And I have achieved, a low tier of success. I have never made a lot of money, but I've kept myself above water. And over the years, I was able to feed the family, 3 children and a wife. The children have grown up and the wife has gone. I now have the lovely Julia in my life, so things aren't bad at all. But some of the ambitions that I was aiming to do, I remember one of the things when I was a young man, I remember thinking I wanted to be a sitcom actor. I just loved sitcoms and comedy. And I thought that would be really ideal for me. And then I wanted to do some directing, filmmaking, and do feature films. Well, the sitcom acting never really happened. Trying to get into acting school or into the world of theatre just proved too difficult in those days, unless you had something else inside you. And I feel that something was holding me back. I don't know what it was. Probably my own ambition, probably the fact that my mother was a alcoholic and my dad was a neurotic, and I don't know. I clearly didn't have what it took to try and leave home and go and tread the streets and bang on the doors of theatre. I don't think my parents, and this is where parents I think are so vital for their children, I don't think my parents gave me that sense that you can achieve anything. In fact, my mother did the reverse. She used to tell me that I would be a squit and I would never amount to anything, which of course doesn't affect your self-confidence very well. And so I had this inability to stand up on my own and say, I'd like to give such and such a go. I did, to a degree, but not where it obviously counted. Anyway, I'm here where I am, and I'm in my late 50s, and I still have ambitions. But I'm just wondering these days whether ambitions is a good thing. You look around, and I don't necessarily see ambitious people, or I don't see that there are opportunities, or that we're being that we're encouraged to have ambitious thoughts and feelings. Nowadays, in the last 20 years, it does seem, which is the irony, is the advent of all this electronic gadgetry and labour-saving devices that we were promised in the days of Tomorrow's World in the 70s, when we used to watch these programs telling us how much leisure time that we would have and how everything was going to be marvellous in the future. It seems that people are working on these what do they call it? I can't even think what you call it now. These no-hour contracts, and people's ambitions to have a big house and a nice garden and all those sort of things that people would love to have, it seems to be taken away. So go back to me now, and I would love to been looking at a dilapidated piece of property, bit of land, do a bit of farming, do the place up, run a YouTube video on the back of it and show what I'm doing. But unless you've got a lot of money, and I mean a lot of money these days, these sort of things that you could do in the 70s, it seems to me, the things that you used to be able to do, whereas you could go and just, I'll just buy some little old property that's tumbled down. It used to be a thing. You could do that. And everybody thought you were mad. Why would you want to do that? These days, everybody wants to do it. Everybody wants to run their own little small holding. But unless you've got a shed load of money, you can't. I was reading a book, I meant to bring it up, written in the 70s, and it's by a chap called Humphrey Phelps. Just Over the Fields, I think it's called. It was sent to me by one of my viewers. Lovely, charming book. And it starts off with this young man. He's just at school leaving age. And he's saying to his parents, I want to be a farmer. And he does become a farmer, and it's the true story of his life. You couldn't do that now, could you? If you wanted to be a farmer, and you're just of a family of middle income, how could you possibly be a farmer? And what kind of farmer could you be? I know there are these farms, what do you call it, the Farmers Union or whatever it is, and all of that. I would love to. I haven't got the money, so I can't do it. But I would love to have bought a small farm and do the old-fashioned mixed farming in the old-fashioned way, with horses or a small tractor, or both. And feed the community, be near a little town, have something like a 30-acre farm, and grow a few basic stuff, and then supply it to the community. Healthy foods that would be my ideal. Not to make a huge profit, wouldn't be about that. I'd like to make a profit. I wouldn't want to have to lose money, but I wouldn't want big machinery. I wouldn't want all the pesticides and fertilizers. I'd like to do it in the old-fashioned way of mixed farming. That would be my perfect dream, my ambition. But unless you have a ton of money, it just seems to me that ambitions are not worth the paper they're written on. It's a bit like the bank, that the bank paper that my CSE exams were written on. In the end, it seems to me that having got this end of my life, that ambition is just ethereal. And unless you are extremely lucky, you win the pools, or you have very influenced friends who can assist you, it ain't going to happen. But what do you think? That's just my thoughts. You might totally disagree with me. You may be somebody who still have burning ambition. I still have ambitions, but I'm just wondering if the burning of the ambition is slowly dwindling. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? Am I facing a reality check? Let's have a look at the comments from the previous shows. Do put your comments on this subject in the comments, and I'll read them out, some of them, tomorrow. Going back to what Julia and I were saying, is the modern world, actually modern tech, is that sometimes a hindrance rather than a help? Guy GFM says apparently there is now a surface that's quieter on the road, a road surface he means. It has an open tyre surface to allow the water to drain away. It's good stuff. So I suppose when we are fully electrified with our cars, you won't hear them coming at all. Ingram Cars says that the island that the lovely Julia was talking about, in which there are no cars, is Sark Island. I wonder if you're able to go there as a visitor and how easy it is. That would be lovely to go and make a video on there. Rich M says, technology, a handy servant which has now become a fearful master. And that does seem to be very much where we are. The tools have taken over. Instead of being, as he says, a handy servant, they seem to... we feared robots, didn't we? That was the thing. We feared that the robots would take over. But in many ways, they have taken over, but not in the way that the science fiction films have depicted. So that's fascinating. Shirley Lynch says, what a handsome couple you are. Oh, that's very kind of you. Both beautifully dressed. Great chinwag. Thank you. Shirley, very much appreciate that. We do, on this channel, try to keep the standards up. And yesterday, in my Naked Englishman this morning, which I recorded about something like 4:30 in the morning because I woke up, couldn't sleep, I relate the experience of going down to the seafront here in Worthing, where I live, and seeing what I've called a carnival of grotesques. The standards, it seems, of people have deteriorated so much that it does make me want to flee from here. Which is such a shame. People who are grossly overweight, who seem to have no care whatsoever for their health, stuffing greasy, unhealthy food into their mouths, dressed in the most inappropriate clothing that shows all the layers of fat and the amount of skin exposed, their blubber and all of that. This is why I thought I must be an old dinosaur, because I thought this is England, is it? This is England in 2022. It's the England that I've been looking for in the quest for England on the Bald Explorer. Again, it's that thing. Pockets of it exist, but you have to be incredibly rich to live in these quintessential English houses, in these quintessential English villages. You can't just move in. I can't move in on whatever simple wage. There's no way that I could. That's my ambition, to live either in the farm or in a beautiful little village. But the villages are now the ghettos of the rich, and the rest of us have to slum it down here with the carnival of the grotesques. Mary Fennell says, glad to see you're both much better. I'm slowly getting better, actually. It's taken a while, this sunstroke, and then I think I caught something on the back of it. I know a lot of people keep saying, oh, it's COVID, you've got COVID, whatever. Technology. I couldn't make a doctor's appointment or have a phone call because the computer is down. Advice? Call 111 or visit your local pharmacy. Very helpful, isn't it? Joanna Jones says, Richard, I forgot to comment on your How Do I Deal with Illness? I watched on the old Vogue show of yours the other day, and I saw you mention that you have, now I can never quite pronounce this correctly, sarcoidosis or something like that. This is going back some years ago, I had this condition, a sarcoidosis, which was this sort of freckling in the lungs, which was a bit of a worry, but it was minor, and apparently it can go one of two ways. It can either get really bad and kill you, or most likely it will clear up of its own. Because of this condition during the lockdown, wearing a mask was not advisable at all. And so I was exempt, and still am exempt from wearing masks. And I know during the lockdown a lot of people would criticise me because I would go to the supermarket without a mask, but I had this condition which I didn't want to flare up and I didn't want to exacerbate. As I say, it can cause a lot of pain and problems. Anyway, Joanna says, I also have the same autoimmune disease. I have scar tissue on my lungs, but touch wood, I've not had a flare-up for a few years. As well, I'm very pleased about that. Yes, it's a strange tickle in the lungs. And I got mine, I think, probably by being in this room when there was mould on the walls. And I think that's probably what happened. I can't... that's also what the doctors reckoned. It may have been spores had kicked it off. But it may well stay latent and flare up again. So one has to be very careful. But I haven't really had a reaction to it. Although, sometimes like with this sunstroke, you think, oh, I can feel something in my lungs now. Maybe it's when you're weakened. It's like so many of these things. When you're weakened, which is why I take my health very seriously, that I don't want to be weak. I don't want to be unable to do things, because these things then can get on top of you and make you feel lousy. So I spend a lot of time, not a lot of time, that's a silly thing. I'm aware of my health, and mostly I'm extremely healthy, and I look after my health, which is why I always marvel. I find it peculiar that people don't look after their health, so I can go down once in a blue moon and have fish and chips, or just chips because I don't eat fish, sausage and chips, and yes, it's a bit fatty and it's not ideal, but I can do that once in a blue moon. The people I saw last night are out here in Lycra, blubber in their face, clearly unhealthy, either consuming vast quantities of alcohol, and then they'll wonder, and greasy foods, and they'll wonder why they have a number of health issues down the line, and be using A&E and doctors and be on the pills and all of that, because they haven't looked after themselves. And you just think to yourself, you don't know what you're lining yourself up for. And as you get older, illness is a bigger thing than when you're younger. And when you're younger, you think that you can dominate the world, and it's okay to drink a few bottles of wine, and it's all going to be okay. But you've got a somewhat shock coming to you, I should think. Carl Chapman says, maybe you need to look up North Wales to find your piece of country. More land for your money. Yes, my quest is for England, and I love England. It would be a huge irony then, and I would feel treasonous to leave England. A friend, or a viewer, I should say, he very much likes England, but he moved to a different country and farms out there. And that's his choice, and he's entitled to do that. And I think he got quite a bit of land, and he's got a lovely lifestyle out there. But I couldn't do that. To me, that is treasonous, leaving this wonderful country, even though it does seem to be going down the pan rather quickly. I just could not do that. So I need to find somewhere in England. William Burgess says, I trust you both will have a long and happy, healthy life. Thank you so much, William. That's very kind of you. Linda Kane says, good to see you're a little better. Thank you, Linda. Much appreciated. There are, says John F., a lot of tractors on Sark. Are there? Didn't know that. And Rachel Gregory says, never want to go abroad again. So much to see in this country. Until I've seen all this country has to offer, why go abroad? And that's very much the way I look at it. There is so much, and there's so much under your nose in many ways, in not only a locality, but within the county that you're in, and then the bordering counties and so on. It's such a fascinating, and we're so lucky. Anybody who lives in England or in Great Britain is so lucky with the layers of history here. It's just wonderful. It really is. And you just got to find the interest, something that will poke your interest, because it is all here. But I think so many people have drab lives with their work, and they're just the treadmill of life is so bad, they just want to escape. And I don't knock them for doing that. In fact, I would rather most of them went abroad and leave me to go and explore this wonderful country on my own. But that's me being a little bit selfish. We'll finish off with a couple more, and then I better let you go. Zom Coco says, while mobile phones are brilliant, lots of people using them don't notice things around them as they're so distracted. I've seen people just walk into the road without looking. They're so engrossed in either texting or chatting. When I'm on the bus, everyone is on their phone. I look out the window and see the vast majority of their mobiles. Yes, Zom, I'm absolutely with you there. Have you noticed now, I mean, it's such a part of the culture and so quick. And this is where culture has changed. Change is so rapid these days. Nobody goes anywhere. Excuse me, I need to just have a drink. Nobody goes anywhere without their phone. And excuse me. And people can't, it seems to me, people cannot not do anything. They can't bear silence, or they can't bear inaction. So in other words, if they just, you go out, you're waiting for someone to get ready, and they just go, I just go back and get my purse or my wallet or whatever, and you're waiting outside their house. Straight on their phone. At a bus stop. People just can't wait. They can't cope without, I must have a look at something. This lack of attention, this lack of ability to just let the mind wander and think, and not be every 2 seconds when a conversation is, oh yeah, no, that's great. What is going on in this world? People are doing this, aren't they, whilst you're having a conversation, which is the rudest possible thing ever. I found myself doing that on occasions and going, I'm just trying to get rid of this and I'm trying to talk to you. But you can't. You've got to say, do you know what? This must take secondary thing in my life, if not thirdary. Look at the world beyond. Don't get trapped into this mobile phone thing. I agree totally. Finally then, years ago, says Glenn Derwitt, I had a good example of modern technology letting you down. I was on a yacht in Poole Harbour, and a very high-tech American yacht came and tied up beside us. This yacht had electrical everything. Water was pumped into the taps, but its generator failed out at sea, and they'd been unable to cook, get fresh water from the tanks, etc. Best always to have some nice low-tech available. On the subject of loudness, says Glenn, I've noticed always to have some nice... I've noticed a lot of YouTube channels play loud music between any talking. Some, even when they are talking, seems to think that there has to be noise all the time. Glad to say you don't do this. I try not to do it. I mean, in the Bald Explorer, I do like to use a bit of music to help things along when it's appropriate or it's a mood change. But I certainly, yes, the thing about the music, I don't know if you've ever done this, and you've turned the picture down on the news, on the television, and you just listen to the sound as if it's a radio program. The amount of dramatic music put into the news, you would think actually you're watching the cinema, an action movie, because the music that is used in the news to tell you what's going on in the world is so dramatic, with drums and timpani and this, that and the other. I mean, it's so ludicrous that we need all of this kind of stuff. That wasn't a very good example, but whatever. It's bonkers. I used to listen to Radio 4, which just I can't now because the BBC are far too biased and they've gone bonkers. But I used to listen to the BBC Radio 4. But there used to be a newsreader who would talk to you in a moderated tone, and it would be easy. But even on any commercial radio, they've got this sort of heartbeat sounding news thing, as if the thing they're telling you about Mrs. Jones' cat that's gone missing down Acacia Avenue, in case you're asking, the black tabby, which might be a misnomer. They've got this stupid music, and then the people who present it are talking in this hyperventilating fashion when they talk. And they tell you the news, and they're sort of almost gasping for breath as if this is the most exciting thing. And you think, well, let me be the judge of whether it's exciting or not. Anyway, there we go. Thank you very much for your comments. I appreciate that. Thanks for bearing with me today. It's been a bit of a slow one. But I'd be fascinated to think has ambition gone? Is there any point to having an ambitious life? Or is it just meaningless in the end? Or were you somebody who managed to break through? Be interested to know, because I'd love to try and work out how to do that. Till next time, take care and bye-bye, he says, trying to find the off button.